You've got the least corrupt country in Africa, at least according to Transparency International. It is Botswana. Leah, you were in Botswana not long ago, weren't you?
I was just there for Christmas and was surprised at how safe I felt there, actually. And Botswana, compared to its border countries, it also reports fewer crimes and bribery cases. It even has a whistleblower hotline where you can call and report corruption. If you're convicted, though, you're looking at time in prison and some pretty hefty fines. The Directorate on Corruption and Economic Crime is in charge of investigating and prosecuting corruption within Botswana. The office has nearly 300 permanent staff and a $9 million annual budget. The service has been around since 1994. Now, we've been talking to some of you in neighboring South Africa, a country with a much higher corruption rating, about what can be learned from their closest neighbor.
As a South African who has been personally affected by the corruption in my country, I'm inspired by and look up to Botswana as a neighboring country because of its relatively low corruption rate. It gives me hope that it is possible for African leaders to put aside their selfishness and greed for the sake of citizens and country, acting as true leaders who make sure a country thrives and develops for the good of all who live in it. Botswana should not only be an example for leaders in my country, but for those of other African countries as well, because if corruption was low in Africa, I believe it can be a very powerful and thriving continent.
In a speech against corruption last December, the president of Botswana, Ian Khama, he said, the government of Botswana has been working tirelessly for the past 23 years, tackling the scourge of corruption in our country. During the early years, the most common form of corruption was bribery, where exchange of money for a favor was the most common thing. Bribery is still a common offense, but over the years, the trend has shifted to highly complicated and complex corruption offenses. Botswana's tourism is another reason for the crackdown on corruption. The president has been pivotal in developing the sector and encouraging tourists to visit the country without fear of being ripped off. If you're in Botswana, we want to hear from you. We've heard from some of you already. Please do let us know how you see corruption getting tackled in your community. You can write me directly at Leah Harding, AJE, or you can use our hashtag AJNewsGrid.
Thank you, Leah.